listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, coming to you on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. For this week's episode, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Stone Temple Pilots' Purple album, their sophomore hit album. Very excited to dive into this album track by track like we do here on the show. And then, of course, my brother Danny, who loves the band as well and loves music, he will be returning to the show to discuss this album. We go in depth on lots of interesting aspects about this particular album and some of the history of the band Stone Temple Pilots, particularly with frontman Scott Weiland and some of his tragic stuff that happened to him, including his tragic death, which occurred in 2025. Oh, sorry, I apologize. 2015, rather. So yeah, we have a fun conversation talking about this classic album from the 90s. Another legendary, awesome album from 1994. I mean, a tremendous year in music. So stay tuned for that. Before we get to my conversation with Danny, and actually, Danny and I briefly touch on this as well. There was a new trailer for the Marvel Studios movie Thunderbolts, which is going to be really cool. It looks really exciting. I know it's been kind of hit or miss when it comes to recent Marvel projects, but I think this movie looks pretty promising and very cool. And Danny seems to agree with me, so we're excited to dive into that for a little bit. I'll insert just a little tiny bit of the trailer here. So here's a little taste of the trailer that was just released earlier this week for the Thunderbolts, scheduled to release in May of 2025.
We're brought up with this belief that there are good guys and there are bad guys.
What's the plan?
This could get messy. But eventually, you come to realize that there are bad guys and there are worse guys and nothing else. Look at you. So adorable.
She's bulletproof. What happened to bulletproof? It's bulletproof-ish. Is that Bucky?
That's not good.
So there we go. That's just a little bit of the Thunderbolts trailer. It's going to be coming to us sometime. It will be coming to us next year. So we're really excited for that. So hopefully this will be one of those projects that helps kind of right the ship, as it were, like Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine did this past summer. In other news, I totally dropped the ball on this. I must apologize to my listeners. Depeche Mode's classic album, Some Great Reward, celebrated its 40th anniversary yesterday, and I didn't even have an episode prepared for it. In fact, I only found out about it yesterday too, so I probably should be doing a little better when it comes to my Depeche Mode fandom. Anyways, I do hope to get an episode about this album sometime in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for a track-by-track review of Depeche Mode's Some Great Reward album to celebrate its 40th anniversary. And I mean, you can tell with my schedule, it's been kind of busy with all the things I want to cover. Sometimes it can be a little challenging. In fact, this Stone Temple Pilots album technically celebrated its 30th anniversary back in June. But again, I had so much going on in June. I'm only just getting around to it now. But yeah, please enjoy this episode with my brother Danny. We're diving into Stone Temple Pilots' Purple track by track here on the Casting for Fun podcast.
Driving faster in my car, falling farther from just what we are. Smoke a cigarette and lie some more. These conversations kill.
Back on the show, it's my brother Danny. Danny, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back. How are you?
I'm doing good too. It's always good to see you and always good to chat music and particularly talk about an album that we really love, and Stone Temple Pilots' Purple. Really excited to dive into this one with you.
All right, let's do
Very
it.
nice. Well, before we dive into Purple, though, I just wanted just to ask if you had a chance to catch the trailer for Thunderbolts this morning.
I did. It looks so good.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I'm kind of like iffy or like wait and see for Captain America: Brave New World, but Thunderbolts I think looks really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think it might end up being renamed Dark Avengers,
Oh,
but
that'd be
that's
really cool.
probably
Yeah.
a discussion for another time.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that discussion for another time, like you said. But it is clever marketing on their part to include the asterisk, so they know, hey, I mean, keep an eye out for this title. So it's got fans talking about it and speculating as to what the subtitle could be, or like you said, it could just completely change it altogether.
Yeah, or yeah, it could just be like and end up being parentheses Dark Avengers or New Avengers or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Yeah, so definitely keep everybody listening and keep an eye out for that because we think it's going to be pretty cool. So yeah. So let's go ahead and dive into Purple by Stone Temple Pilots. First released on June 7th, 1994, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200. So a number of rock albums did so, which is really cool just because in general, I think you would agree, Danny, that rock music kind of gets the shaft sometimes where it's not getting the love that it should. But a number of really awesome rock albums did debut at number 1 in the year of 1994, some of which have been already covered on this podcast, like Alice in Chains EP of Jar of Flies and Soundgarden Super Unknown. So is this one that you finally remember back when it first came out, Purple by Stone Temple Pilots?
I think back then I was more into the singles. As time grew on, I grew more appreciative of this album. It's really good. It's up there, I think, with the Super Unknowns and the Weezer's albums of the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So as you mentioned, the 3 singles were really popular in Big Empty, Vaseline, and Interstate Love Song. And it was interesting learning about this. Apparently, there was 2 other promotional singles. So Pretty Penny and Unglued were technically like not commercially released as singles, but rock stations around the country would play them. I can't remember if K-Rock ever did. So our local rock station here in LA, but
yeah, I don't think they did. But yeah, I did. I think I got back into the album when I discovered that they were promotional singles. I think it was after their Greatest Hits album came out in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also, I mean, when it comes to Stone Temple Pilots, I mean, one thing that the elephant in the room that you just can't ignore is just the tumultuous past that Scott Weiland, the lead singer, had while he was still alive. I mean, there was 2 different times that he took a hiatus and left the band and then even formed his own supergroup, Velvet Revolver. And then the guys from Stone Temple Pilots, they started another side project band called Talk Talk. I don't know if you remember that, where the brothers.
Yeah, I do remember that. That their song.
Yeah. I mean, back then we were watching MTV all the time, and I remember seeing that video for that band and thinking, hey, that's not Scott Weiland. Who's that? Who's that singing with those guys?
Sounds like STP, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So it's unfortunate that, I mean, amongst all the major rock stars of the time, I mean, I think Weiland probably had the most problems with drugs. In fact, it's kind of a miracle he lasted as long as he did, right?
Absolutely. It's a race between him and Lane Stanley.
Yeah, technically Lane Staley died first, but I mean, it just seemed like Scott Weiland was just constantly dealing with the addiction problems, and but we got some great music out of it. So, but anyways, yeah, I want to go ahead and show a video before we dive into the album. This is a short video talking about the history of the album Purple by Stone Temple Pilots. So let's go ahead and enter this really fast.
Back at that record, I'm sure you guys look back at that record sonically and musically and creatively. It came together and we created a great record, a great listening experience from front to back.
Purple was the second studio album from the Stone Temple Pilots and was a huge success for the band, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart, eventually going on to sell over 6 million copies. Two tracks, Big Empty and Lounge Fly, were recorded in 1993. However, the rest of the album was recorded in March of 1994 at Southern Tracks Recording, with the album being released just a few months later in June of 1994. The recording and mixing of Purple came together very quickly. The producer, Brendan O'Brien, who worked with STP on their first 5 studio albums, wanted to work quickly on the album and get it recorded and done just as fast as they could.
Brendan wasn't one to spend a lot of time on records. He would say, if we're going to do this, he would say, all right, we're going to do this for, I'm going to lose interest. We just set up in there like we were live. His thing was like, bring in your live gear. Let's put a PA in here. I mean, there's leakage and all on that record. I mean, like I said, we tracked that record in 11 days and mixed in, 2 weeks. We were done.
The album contains 11 tracks of hard rock music interwoven with softer moments on songs such as The Acoustic, Pretty Penny, Kitchenware and Candy Bars, and Still Remains. Lead singer Scott Weiland noted that the songs on Purple took on much more of a personal meaning.
Because of certain things surrounding the period of writing and recording it, we were going through some very personal traumas within the band. And so the writing of the album for myself, because due to the fact that I write the words, I was doing a lot of, I guess I'd say, reflecting and thinking and internalizing things. So it was a very personal album to me.
Yeah, so we learned some interesting stuff from that short video from a YouTube channel called Rock TV. That this album was a very personal album for Scott Weiland. In fact, the lyrical content deals a lot of with his addictions and loves from his past. So it's a lot of personal stuff that happened on this album, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll probably get into it as we get into track by track, but yeah, it's very personal. A lot of some of the things that they haven't even explained, like what the songs are about, all of them, but we can kind of get a grasp of what kind of the meaning is. Just a lot of it's going to have to do with his drug addiction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it was also kind of interesting to learn that Brendan O'Brien, mega rock producer who's done a number of great bands like, Pearl Jam, I believe, for sure, Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden, Rage Against the Machine. Later into the 2000s, he would produce for Incubus. So I guess he likes to work quickly, right? I mean, Stone Temple Pilots released 3 consecutive albums within the span of 6 years. So Core first in 2002, I'm sorry, 1992 rather, Purple in 1994, and then Tiny Music in 1996. So it just seemed like they were constantly putting out music and well put together music too on a really fast basis.
Yeah, and Tiny Music would have came out faster if it wasn't for the drug problems too.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into it now, track by track, like we do here on the podcast. The Purple album, which again has technically 11 official songs, but it's interesting that on the back cover, there's a cake on it that says 12 Gracious Melodies. And if you're thinking to yourself, hey, I mean, there's 11 listed songs, but you're saying 12 Gracious Memories. What's Gracious Melodies, rather? What's that 12th song? So we're going to get to the hidden track at the end of the album. But anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and dive into track number 1. This song is called Meat Plow. So that's track number 1, Meat Plow. It starts out really heavy. great way to start out the album. Just start out kicking full gears right from the get-go. And I guess the lyrical content deals with dependence on outside influences, like it's mentioned a lover and a brother, in order to understand and make amends. So again, this kind of delves into the deep meaning or personal level meaning for Scott Weiland, who wrote the song, to suggest that he needs those outside influences to help him, because I guess he has difficulty understanding things himself, right?
Yeah. I think it's also taking a shot at the critics, because after the first album, Core, the critics hated Stone Temple Pilots, just wrote them off as just a copycat grunge band. I know they don't like to be referred to as a grunge band, but I think for the purposes of this podcast, it's just easier to just call them a grunge band. Mm-hmm. But he's also like, just saying like, they have all those people shooting me down. They have the pictures of me showing what I'm doing. But I got my lover, I got my brother. That's really all I need to overcome all this.
Oh, wow. You know what, Danny? I think maybe you understand the song better than I do. Well, it's interesting, like, researching, because with Meat Plow, the title itself, like, I mean, that doesn't really make any sense. Meat Plow. I mean, like, plow and meat, words by themselves, yes, but together, it's, yeah. It seems to me that Weiland, more so than maybe some of his rock peers, like, really used a lot of abstract style lyrics, even more so than Chris Cornell did for Super Unknown. So again, like, diving into it together, I think it's gonna make a lot of sense for me and also for our listeners as well. But musically, I think this song really kicks. I think it's a really awesome song.
Yeah, again, I think it's fun that they probably did one of the more grunge sounding songs first. Just kind of that screw you to the critics as they're listening to the album.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into track number 2 now. This was one of the official singles, the 3 official singles. This is called Vaseline.
You'll see the look and you'll see the lies. You'll eat the lies and you flies in the Vaseline we are. Sometimes it blows my mind. Keep getting stuck here all the
Very cool. So that's track number 2, Vaseline, a very successful single for the band, and probably one of the first songs that I can remember hearing, even though technically Big Empty was first released as a single, but this is probably the song that I kind of remember first hearing on K-Rock. I could be mistaken. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? Is this one of your favorite songs on the album?
Yeah. I remember watching the music video for this one a lot on MTV. They always had those guys dressed up in their Oktoberfest outfits doing their dance. I always thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah, I do. That's pretty funny. But
yeah, it's a cool song.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's a cool song. Just kind of shows that they're going in a different direction. They're not just going to be a grunge band anymore. They're going to dive into different genres of music, different influences. So yeah, it's a good second song.
Yeah, it's a really good straight up rock song. It's very catchy. It's got a good hooks on it too, I think, drawing like casual listeners. So I think it's a really excellent song. And deals again more with like the personal influence stuff that I think Scott Weiland was kind of addressing on this album, like flies in the Vaseline we are. Sometimes it blows my mind. So I guess the concept of that if we get stuck on a Vaseline, like, we're stuck in the same situation over and over again, and it could be to our detriment and to our demise. So again, the visual concept of it, I think, is pretty fascinating.
Yeah. It's exactly the way he's described it. I know in the past, just doing the same thing over and over again is really gonna not be good for you.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Okay, so now let's dive into track number 3. This song is called Loungefly.
okay, relieve me. Things are made, things are made, will you kill me? The lounge fly, the flyer bring me. I think I'm free, but the dogs, they won't release me. Don't have a nickel or a dollar, but you feed me. My bottle's empty, but you always move.
So as you mentioned earlier, Danny, we watched a lot of MTV at this time in like the mid-90s when our family finally got cable. So we actually watched a lot of MTV and we saw a lot of these videos, and we would see a lot of the programming on MTV. And it was interesting is this particular song at the very beginning, I swear was used for an MTV program of some type, whether it was like MTV News or some type of like music show thing that they were doing that, you know what I'm talking about? The very beginning.
Yeah, I think it was the MTV News.
Yeah, I scoured YouTube to see if I can find it. I can't find it anywhere, but I'm 100% confident that MTV did use this song. And it was really cool because, like you mentioned, I think we initially we kind of paid attention mostly to the singles and not realized that when you heard it on MTV, that was actually a Stone Temple Pilots song.
Yeah, definitely. It was cool. The song's interesting. Well, one of the two songs that was written the previous year has a guest guitar solo on it. Not sure why they decided to have one, but it's there.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So this is a cool song too. Very nice. Okay. Let's go ahead and dive into track number 4 now. This is Interstate Love Song, one of the most successful songs the band ever did. Maybe one of their most well-known songs as well. So here's track number 4, Interstate Love Song. So as previously mentioned, this is definitely one of the band's most successful singles, described as like, grunge rock, alternative, country, even, and hard rock all kind of meshed together as one united sound. So this is a really awesome, really cool song. I think was definitely very appealing to music fans from all different like genres, I feel.
Yeah, I think this is, if not their most famous song, probably the second most. Definitely really cool that they incorporated some of the country influences into it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's been covered by a number of different artists, which is kind of cool and fascinating. In fact, while researching this album, I just kind of happened to randomly come across a cover done by Hootie and the Blowfish of all bands. And if Nick Turner is listening to this, he'll just laugh at me because he knows how much I dislike that band, even though I did in fact buy their debut album. But I can remember like a few months later selling it back to the warehouse because I was just tired of like this boring adult contemporary music. But I'll throw it in here just for the sake of music, because actually now that I'm older, I think I can appreciate it a little more. And the lead singer, Darius Rucker from the band Hootie and the Blowfish, I think his vocal range is really, really well suited for this song. In fact, I think he does an excellent job singing it. So I'll insert it to the podcast so people can hear it and judge for themselves. Okay, very cool. So let's go ahead and dive into track number 5. This song is called Still Remains. So this one's also like very in line with the personal nature of the album that Scott Weiland had talked about earlier in that earlier clip I played. I guess it was a love song that was dedicated to a past love of his, so not the woman he would end up marrying, but I guess a love song dedicated to a previous love. I think the composition is really beautiful, really awesome the way the song was put together.
Yeah, like when I first like hear the first couple of chords, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I won't like the song, but I guess it just doesn't go the way that I think it's going to go, and ended up being just really beautiful, and I like it. It's kind of like the third song in a row about a relationship, and this one's like the one that's the least bummer. It's straight up nothing wrong, because Loungefly, he's like kind of questioning his relationship, and he's kind of just needs his partner. And then Interstate Love Song, he's lying to her about his drug addiction. And this one's just kind of like, okay, I want to be with you even after death. I still want to be with you.
Oh yeah, in fact, that's actually an interesting line from the song that I wanted to recite here for the podcast, where it says, take a bath, I'll drink the water that you leave. If you should die before me, ask if you could bring a friend. Pick a flower, hold your breath, and drift away. So again, it's really awesome lyrics. In fact, it's kind of interesting, the concept too, like drinking someone's bathwater is like incredibly gross. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but if you're really like infatuated and in love with somebody, I mean, like I guess that's a way or sign of showing how much you are. Like that, I would actually literally drink the water that you bathed in because of how deeply I feel for you. And then the line that if you should die before me, ask if you could bring a friend. So it's kind of cool, just that concept of like even if death were to separate us, I mean, and you're at the pearly white gates of heaven, I mean, put in a good word for me so I can get in there too. Yeah, so like you said, this is kind of a cool, like, non-bummer song. But again, this is a really well-done song. It's probably my favorite song of theirs that isn't a single. So this is definitely one that people should definitely check out. Very cool. Okay, so let's jump into track number 6, Pretty Penny. This one also is a really interesting, cool song. So I'm going to dive into some of the concepts and backstory of this song as well. So this is track number 6, Pretty Penny.
Seen your mother, girl? Has she gone away? Gone away and found the pearl, but the price she paid. Gone when you wake in the morning, gone when you find that there's no one sleeping, gone. Pretty Penny was her name. She was loved and we all will miss her. How far will you go, I say, just to bait a mouse? Shorter lived and longer gone. Can you figure out?
So as previously mentioned, this was a promotional single, so it wasn't commercially released, but several rock stations around the country played it. And it's a really beautifully played acoustic guitar song. So again, as you mentioned, Danny, it's kind of their attempt, I think, to break away from the confines of being like labeled or identified as just being purely a grunge rock song, but that as musicians, the band was well versed and well taught in musical compositions that they could put together a song like this. But technically, I would say that about every grunge rock band. So Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, everybody really.
Yeah, I like the change of pace. I like the kind of Eastern influence of the scale that they play on the acoustic guitar and the bongos on it. It's really cool. As far as I know, like this one they hadn't ever discussed what it's about, but it sounded like maybe you got some insight on that.
Yeah, it's interesting how it works for these like review podcasts where I'm diving into information to try and find it. Sometimes I could find quite a bit on a song. Sometimes I find very little. I was able to find some it's a direct quote from Scott Weiland in an interview he conducted back in 1994. So apparently the song was written by Weiland as an attempt to prove that he wasn't an addict, or at least able to try and overcome his addictions. And this is what he had to say. I wish I had a YouTube clip so I can actually include it. It's just an article, basically. I'm going to read it verbatim. We were in our rehearsal room, and Robert and Dean, the brothers who were in the band, were playing acoustic guitar with each other, playing this line, and Eric grabbed a couple of microphones and started tapping in some kind of rhythm pattern. It was coming through the monitor, and there was a single Indian drum made out of stretch leather, as Danny had referred to, and we just started a little interplay between us. We recorded onto a cassette tape. I took it home and the melody came into my head for the verse and it became a song. It's a special song personally, one of those songs you write because of some form of defense mechanism that's subconscious. I wrote it in third person and only realized a couple of weeks ago when I finally listened to the whole album that it was actually an introspective thing. It's easier to write an allegorical third person when it's something you have a hard time looking at. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. I think people are going to either love it or hate it. So that's what Weiland had to say about the song. I'm personally on the side of definitely loving it because again, it's beautiful composition. I think all the musical instruments thrown in, as you mentioned, Danny, are well done, and knowing that it does have a personal impact in his personal life as to like him dealing with the addiction problems that he dealt with basically his entire life is kind of fascinating to hear about.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could have to go back and really look at the lyrics again to see it with that perspective and see what he's talking about with them. I'm trying to prove that he's not an addict, but yeah, it's just a shame that he's got that knowledge that he is an addict, but it's kind of lying to himself. He's lying to his girlfriend, he's lying to the band, he's lying to himself. It's kind of just a tragedy what happened to him.
Yeah, it seems to be a common theme for a lot of the songs on this album, talking about the lies that individuals tell for either themselves or to other people. So it is kind of fascinating to look at it from that perspective. But yeah, this is definitely a standout song, I feel, that definitely sets him apart from all the great bands. I mean, again, like you'll never hear me say anything bad about any of the grunge rock bands, but this is definitely a really important song for them as a band. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and dive into track number 7 now. This song is called Silver Gun Superman. Very cool. So that's track number 7, Silver Gun Superman. Is this one of your favorites? Because this is one that I think it's hard rock sounding. I love that, but sometimes I think it can kind of be overlooked a little bit. because of like how it's a complete contrast from Pretty Penny, what we just heard, and then Big Empty comes right after. So I think this could be, because of its placement, could be maybe sometimes overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, I like this song. To me, it kind of sounds like a Velvet Revolver song, which is kind of interesting since I believe it's Dean that writes all the music.
Mhm.
And he was not involved with Revolver, so like, how did they get that sound? But yeah, it's good. It's another song where I think he's lying about to himself about his drug addictions. I guess like silver gun means like the hypodermic needles that he used to shoot up with heroin. So it's an interesting song.
And what I'd also researched is apparently I think it's the song also kind of deals with it's like a diss song against somebody that did him wrong, where he in the line of the song it says sell me out and frame your name, I can hear the pig whisper sweetly, jealousy is the weapon, you kill me. So I guess a dig at someone who probably did him wrong in his mind in some form or another, which seems to be a common theme, I think, especially nowadays. But yeah, I think oftentimes we write about the things that are affecting us. And I guess on a personal level, whoever this individual is probably affected Scott Weiland in some fashion or form.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like whoever it was called the police on him, and he's kind of just like, no, I don't have a problem, I'm fine, when he actually did.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Okay, so now we're going to dive into track number 8, Big Empty. I'm really excited to dive into this one. This one is actually, in fact, my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song, all-time song. So let's go ahead and dive into this one. Track number 8, Big Empty.
Name is what it means. Too much walking, shoehorn thing. Time to take her home. Her daisy head is contemplated. Time to take her ride. It leaves today no conversation. Time to take her home. Her daisy head is contemplated. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill.
Yeah, so I know for lots of people, they could probably think of one particular song that they probably associate the band with more so than any other song. For me, it would be this one, Big Empty. This song is just fantastic. First written, one of the first songs for the album, as you mentioned, Danny, written the previous year in 1993, along with Loungefly, appeared on the soundtrack for The Crow, which was released in May. So the month before, in 1994, The Crow soundtrack also went to #1, another rock album that went to #1 on the Billboard charts. And again, I think it's a song. I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one that I should have. I still can. I can still go back and recover it if I want to. I can do whatever I want in the podcast. And then, of course, I'm really looking forward to The Cure's long-awaited, finally, new album, 16 years in the making. But well, that's for a discussion for another day. But as far as like the Crow movie is concerned, this song won an MTV Movie Award for Best Song in a Movie. Not that anyone really cares about MTV stuff. I mean, back then we did, right?
Yeah. Well, they did a lot of rock back then. Then
Yeah.
rock's pretty much dead on MTV nowadays.
Yeah, or music in general is just dead too. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? So this is one of your favorite songs too?
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the slide guitar used on it. I like the harmonies when they sing Conversations Kill. What the song's about, who knows? Can be interpreted in many different ways.
Yeah. I was looking into a lot of times you can find YouTube videos that kind of dive into the deep meanings of songs. I couldn't find anything on YouTube specifically, and then a lot of the things I find online just come from like other fans' perspective, and so many people are saying so many different things about the song. So it really is one of those songs that I guess could be open for interpretation. But again, regardless of the actual meaning, I mean, I think the song just sounds awesome, and then used in the Crow soundtrack, financially successful for the band, just sounds really cool. So yeah, for all those reasons together, make this my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song.
Yeah, it's a good one. If I was to like rank the songs, I probably think this is probably the third most popular Stone Temple Pilots song.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into track number 9 now. This song is called Unglued, and there's a very interesting story with this song. So let's go ahead and dive into this one. Track number 9, Unglued. So as previously mentioned, this particular song was a promotional single as well. So again, not commercially released, but played on rock stations across the country. Good use of distorted guitar in the intro and heavy bass line. So similar to some of the other things that they've done. There is an interesting story with this song in the later history of the band and of Scott Weiland, which I'll get into in just a minute. But first, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the particular song, this song, Unglued.
Yeah, I like this one. It's probably the fastest tempo song on the album. It just hits hard. They even played it on Letterman.
Yeah, I did come across that clip. It's actually pretty cool that again, they're just a promotional single, so not meant to be one of like the big hits, was actually played on national TV, which is really, really cool. And especially because of how fast paced it is, it may not be as popular with mainstream audiences to the same level that Interstate Love Song would have been. But a fascinating story about this song is apparently this song was the final song that Scott Weiland ever performed before he died.
Oh, wow.
So apparently in 2015, he wasn't with Stone Temple Pilots anymore. He was playing with another band called the Wildabouts. And they performed in a small, dinky little club in 2015 on December 1st. And then a few days later, on December 3rd, he was found dead in the tour bus. But the final song of that particular set was this song, Unglued. So again, on that particular set, it features songs from that band, some songs from Velvet Revolver. I think even like a few songs from his solo stuff that he did. And then, of course, a number of Stone Temple Pilots songs. And it just so happened that Unglued was the very last song that he performed publicly before his tragic death.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I find it fascinating. And then because of that, I'm always going to be thinking about it differently now. And I only learned this through my extensive research for this album. Otherwise, I would have never known that was his final song performed. But because of that, though, whenever I hear it, I'm always going to be thinking that.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Oh, very cool. Let's go ahead and dive into track number 10 now. The song is called Army Ants. So this one is really cool as well. It's very hard hitting as it gets into the song, so the composition is very interesting. But I couldn't find much as far as like actual interpretation of the lyrical content. From what I can just gather, like reading the lyrics myself, I think it just kind of deals with like the difficulties of being different for individuals who kind of struggle with that. And I guess it's up to you to determine what different could mean. In today's society, it can mean lots of different things. So it is kind of an interesting song, I feel.
Yeah, I get that as well. You know, he's comes across as pretty normal because he just says like, you know, agree with the way I pray, which, you know, praying back then was pretty kind of a normal thing, not like it is today. So it's just kind of talking about no matter what you are, there's always going to be someone that disagrees with you. That's what I gather, at least. But yeah, it's a good song. I like how it starts off the acoustic. You think it might be a little bit slower, and then it gets heavy. I've always liked that in songs.
Yeah, it's very unique in the composition of the song, as you mentioned. But Army Ants, though, again, that's just kind of an out there title. I don't really know if there was any type of association with Army Ants, like the way they behave or anything of that nature, but it is interesting.
Yeah, like I really don't know why they would call it Army Ants other than it was a line in the song.
Yeah. And then speaking of unusual titles, so we're getting to the track number 11, which is the last official song on the album. And then after this song, we'll go into the hidden song. But anyways, this is track number 11, Kitchenware and Candy Bars. So the title, again, is very unusual to me, but this is a really cool sounding song as well, right?
Oh yeah, it starts a little slow and then starts building up and then ends with a fantastic guitar solo. I know we haven't really talked about the guitar solos much, but they've been pretty good on this album, like better than some of the other, like not as good as Soundgarden or Alice in Chains, but they hold their own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with that sentiment. I think sometimes it's perceived that they don't, you know, and actually we didn't touch on this before, but again, all those other bands that we mentioned, like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden, they're all from Seattle, whereas Stone Temple Pilots, they're not. In fact, I think they're from San Diego, right?
They're technically from LA, but they started going to San Diego to play their shows because the hair bands were still popular at the time.
Oh, okay.
Deal with that.
Yeah. So I think they're kind of seen as like the redheaded stepchild, if you will, when it comes to like grunge rock. And I think that's going back to the concept of like, you know, critics not thinking very highly of Stone Temple Pilots. I think that could have been played a part of it. Why they weren't as perceived as being as good as the other bands. And musically, I think they're right up there. And as I mentioned before, Big Empty is definitely not just one of my favorite Stone Temple Pilots songs, but one of my favorite songs ever. So I definitely feel that collectively as a band, I think they bring it. They're really hard hitting rock band. I never got to see him in concert, so I was kind of bummed about that. But
you can go see him with the new lineup.
Oh yeah, I heard that they do have a new lineup. I haven't heard any of those new songs, but again, it's the Leo brothers still playing, right?
Yeah, and they're really the talent of the band.
That's true.
Well, I guess no, I take that back. Scott, it was very talented. His voice could match up with Chris and Lane, but he also, I think he hasn't beaten the showmanship, that shuffle dance, the thing that he does.
Oh yeah. Oh, very cool. Okay, so in theory, you would think, okay, we reached the end of the album, the 11 songs that were advertised on the track of on the album itself. But there is a hidden 12th song called, I guess, 12 Gracious Melodies. I guess I don't know if the 12th song actually has a title.
I think it's called the second song from my album or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, but again, it's the 12th Gracious Melody, I guess, if you want to refer to it that way. So it's just a lounge act song. I'll go ahead and put it into the podcast so people know what we're talking about. But yeah, so when you hear it, I mean, it's kind of like just like it's out of place, but it is kind of just funny. So I guess they had the sense of humor of like putting it in, or I don't know if you know if it had like a deep meaning as to why they would put it in.
I heard. Oh, we can talk about it after we listen to it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'll put it in right now.
The second album, 12 precious melodies, worth listening, hope you enjoy them, like if it's sung to me. Listen to 12 great tunes, playing on your stereo.
Okay, so that's the hidden song. So was there information you had heard? Did it have specific meaning? Because again, it just feels like it really stands out like a sore thumb. But it is kind of funny, I feel.
Okay, so the song is called Second Album.
Okay.
And it is by a man of Johnny Mathis on his album called Olay. So it's just an album that they saw in the record studio and they kind of liked it. They thought it was funny and just decided to put it on as a hidden track.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I guess it doesn't really have any deep meaning. They just like they liked it.
Yeah, they're showing off their variety of music that they like and they're influenced by.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then again, they actually advertise it on the album itself. So you look at the back cover and you say, "Oh, it says 12 Gracious Melodies, but only 11 songs." That's a hidden. I mean, that's a giveaway right there. That there's a hidden track on the album itself. Most artists didn't do that. I mean, you kind of had to find the hidden track yourself.
Yeah, we talked about it many times. Hidden tracks were a thing that they did back then. It's a shame that they don't really do them anymore, or they really can't.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So that's Purple by Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, this is definitely their best album, I feel. But it's interesting that I think some of the comments I've read online have suggested people seem to think Tiny Music's actually their best album. Do you have a preference, Danny? Which one you actually think is their best album?
Well, just for recency bias, I'd probably say Purple. It's I would have to go in and really dissect Tiny Music. But just thinking of it now, I think the singles from Purple were a lot bigger and more popular today than the ones from Tiny Music. So I would probably say Purple is at least would be the more popular album of the masses as opposed to hardcore fans. They might differ, but I definitely think that Purple is the more popular one.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. In fact, actually, I mean, if you have to really take Tiny Music, I think sometimes with just from a different point of view, because like Scott Weiland sounds way different on that album. In fact, it sometimes even doesn't like seem like it's the exact same band, even though it's still called Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, and they do a lot like their influences show a lot more. I mean, like Big Bang, Baby, that sounds like a glam rock song, or Lady Picture Show, that sounds like a 60s psychedelic song. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's very different. Like you can see they're really shifting away from the grunge type music, but it's still a good album.
Oh, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's still really, really good. And actually, I mean, it kind of has me thinking now, oh, you know what? When 2026 rolls around, it'd be really cool to discuss that for that album's 30th anniversary. If I can wait that long, maybe I might break my rules and review it sooner. But yeah, so that's Purple by Stone Temple Pilots again. Oh, you know what? I'm just reminded of something. So I want to go ahead and throw in one more bonus track just for fun. So on an anniversary release of the album, they included their cover of the Led Zeppelin classic Dancing Days. So I want to throw in that song as well. Let me go ahead and put it in here. We'll talk about that really fast.
As the summer evenings grow, I got my flower, I got my power, I got a woman who knows. You know it's alright, I said it's alright, I guess it's all in my heart. You'll be my only, my one and only, it's the way it should start. Crazy ways are evident.
Yeah, so as a bonus treat, we'll go ahead and dive into their cover of Dancing Days, which I guess was included first on a compilation greatest or influence album, cover album for Led Zeppelin in 1995, so the following year. But again, an anniversary release of Purple, they decided to include it on that release. So yeah, that their version of it sounds really awesome, I feel.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because if you didn't, I was going to give it a shout out. It's a fantastic cover. I think it's one of the best covers ever done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So not a whole lot to say about it, really. I mean, again, if you love Led Zeppelin and rock music, you definitely know that song. So, but yeah, so I definitely it merits inclusion in this album review of Purple because of how awesome and fantastic it is, and that it is included in anniversary releases of this album. So, as always, I definitely recommend people check this album out, especially if you haven't listened to it recently. And when hearing these songs, particularly Unglued, as previously mentioned, it gives you a new perspective on the band and on the person who Scott Weiland was. So doing more research to learn about him as an individual, I think would be really fascinating, really cool stuff.
Yeah, this album I think might be the most underrated album of '94. It's fantastic, but it doesn't get the same recognition as your Super Unknowns or I'm not a fan of it, but your Downward Spirals by Nine Inch Nails. It's not as popular as those albums, and I think they're just as good.
Oh, I definitely agree, Danny. Yeah. Oh, very cool. So yeah, that's all the talking points I had tonight for Purple. Do you have anything else you wanted to bring up? If not about Stone Temple Pilots, anything else at all?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, again, as I mentioned, I love doing these cover by cover or track by track rather reviews of albums that we love, the albums that are celebrating anniversary. It gets a perfect excuse to talk about it because there's so much that I talk about on the podcast. It just kind of came a little bit late. I definitely should have made this a priority though back in June, maybe done like a bonus episode or something. But yeah, so it celebrated its 30th anniversary this past summer in June. But I definitely recommend anyone check it out because it's just really awesome, great music. Cool. So if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. But again, Danny, it's always a pleasure. And yeah, for everybody listening to Stone Temple Pilots, especially this album, I think it's a really great listen. Oh, cool. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so you've been listening to the Captain for Fun podcast. We'll catch you next time.